In the warm water of tropical seas lies new hope for patients with artificial eyes. From a substance that forms the great reefs of the world comes a revolutionary product, hydroxyapatite. This poor material in the hand of eye surgeon at Perry has been used in the creation of an orbital implant that becomes integrated with the tissue of the orbit. By becoming infested with the patient's own tissues, the implant doesn't migrate and, if exposed, heals over with the fibrovascular tissues and epithelium, and therefore will not be extruded. This implant is buried beneath the tissue of the orbit and has never been seen, and is not removed. The artificial eyes rest on top of the tissues that cover the orbital implant, and it may be removed when necessary. The hydroxyapatite orbital implant developed by eye surgeon at Perry is made of a naturally occurring body mineral, calcium phosphate. The body's acceptance of the implant tends to eliminate rejection or dislodgement and allows for more movement. A movable implant will cause the artificial eyes to move synchronously with a normal eye. This balanced movement gives the artificial eyes a more lifelike and natural appearance. The following patients who have received hydroxyapatite orbital implants will demonstrate this balanced movement. This patient who had a secondary orbital implant in her left orbit and a peg placed into the implant to gain motility. Here you see the movement of that secondary orbital implant and coupled ocular prosthesis. You see this small, quick darting movement that one generally has in conversational speech demonstrated here. Here again we see the quick darting movement of this artificial eye. Because of the direct coupling between the artificial eye and the orbital implant, by weight of the peg, here is no lag in movement of the artificial eye. And we are going to remove her left ocular prosthesis to demonstrate the peg in place. Here we see the ball-shaped end of the peg. Here we see the ball-shaped end of the peg as it protrudes above the surface of the conjunctiva. And here you see the movement of the peg while it is in place. The peg is above the conjunctiva for approximately 3 to 5 millimeters. The close-up view of the peg in place in the movement that one can get with a secondary implant. Here is a side view of the ball-shaped peg to demonstrate its elevation above the surface of the conjunctiva. This is the ball that fits into the back indentation of the artificial eye that allows the implant to be coupled to the artificial eye and transmitted the movement of the implant to the artificial eye. The peg not only transmits movement to the artificial eye but decrease lower than seen by supporting the weight of the artificial eye, which is generally upheld by the lower eyelid. Here again is the movement from a side view of the peg. Here the peg is being removed with smooth adze and forceps, and as the peg is grabbed and pulled forward, one can feel suction on the peg because of the tight fit I've been paying into the drilled hole. The peg itself is approximately 10 mm long, with the ball being 3 mm in elevation. Everyone can see the edge of the hole, and notice how quiet this socket is and how perfectly shaped the drill hole is. It confirms to the size of the peg. Under still, one could see the conjunctiva epithelium going down the side of this drilled hole. Here the peg is being placed back into the hole, and in like manner there's air in the depth of this hole, and by pushing back the peg into the hole, the air has to escape along the side of the hole, so there's resistance to the peg being pushed back into the hole, and it takes some force to do that. This is a demonstration of the artificial eye in a mortality implant. The indentation on the posterior surface is made directly posterior to the pimple. This is drilled out and fit to match exactly the curvature of the ball on the peg. The ball on the peg then fits into this area, and the ball and socket joint is formed that's transmitting movement from the implant to the artificial eye. This is a demonstration of the ball of the peg being fitted into this indentation, forming the ball and socket joint. What we can say that the eyes will move around in any direction with this peg in place. This ball and socket joint also lends support to the weight of the artificial eye. Here's a close-up view of the peg. Here's a patient who had an evisceration of his left eye and then had a mortality implant placed. He again had a mortality implant with the peg being directly attached to the posterior surface to the artificial eye, and headless later changed to a ball and socket type of mechanism. You can see that his very good movement of the artificial eyes into all fields. Notice that there's no lag in movement from one eye to the other. Here again is the close-up view showing the quick darting eyes movements that are used in conversational eye contact. The artificial eye is removed to demonstrate the ball-shaped peg that is in this eviscerated eye. The movements of that peg is demonstrated here. This evisceration was done with the cornea left intact. Here is the posterior aspect of that patient's artificial eye, and one can see the socket into which the ball fits when the artificial eye is placed back into the socket. It clicks back into place so that the position is re-established and the ball and socket joint is maintained. Here you see the artificial eye is resilient, and we're gonna demonstrate of how the artificial eye being placed from the side and front. The artificial eye is made from Medical Silicones USA. Its anti-sensitivity can be worn 24 hours a day and long term. No adverse reactions. Silicone material USA, which is not sticky on any substance. Medical Silicone USA is more ideal than any other materials. It can prevent the eye socket from being exposed. Since the artificial eye has an energy storage effect, so the scalp and eyelid atrophy can be greatly reduced for a child through the activity of the artificial eye on a daily basis.